Welcome to my lesson on rounding off decimals. What I've started with is a number line that you're familiar with, going off in both directions. So the numbers with integers 0, 1, 2 and 3. What I'm going to do is if I broke that up into 10 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal pieces, that's one unit there. Each of those little pieces would be 1/10. Now what I want to do is hone in on this little section here. And that's what I've done. I'm zoomed in on that and I've written it in that way. So I'm going from 0.4 to 0.5. Now if I then broke up each of those pieces into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces, each of those pieces would be 1/100th of a piece. Alright, let's not worry about that right now though. What I would like to do is I would like to find the number that is exactly halfway between here and here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the number here. So that's 0.4 and a half. Except there's a problem there, you can't have a fraction as part of a decimal. Alright, what about 0.4.5? Well, you can't have a decimal as part of that. Neither of those will work. So what I suggest we do is to find out this one that's right in the middle, is we're going to write this one here, not just in terms of 4/10, but we're going to write it in hundredths. So I've still got my 4/10 and I've got no hundredths, but I'm going to put the 0 in there to represent 0 hundredths, which means over here I'm going to have 5/10 and 0 hundredths. Now I can say, what's halfway between 0.40 and 0.50? Well, that's going to be 0.45, or 0.45 is the correct way that we say it. All right, so what if I want to mark on this value here? 0.40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 0.44. And what if I went 2 more up from here, say that one there, 0.45, 46, 47. And what I would like to do is for those two numbers, I'd like to determine or round them off to their closest 1 decimal place. So are they closer to 0.4, because that's to 1 decimal place, or are they closer to 0.5? Well, you can look at the picture and you can see that 0.44 is on this side of halfway. So it's actually closer to 0.4. But then when you look at 0.47, it's here, it's this side of halfway, it's closer to 0.5. So what we say here is we have rounded this one down to the 1 decimal place before it. So we have rounded down, but this one we have rounded up. All right. Now what about if I said the point 0.45, which we've just realised is halfway in between? Well, what we do there is we think, well, do we go, it's halfway, so it's just as far from that one as it is from that one. Well, we have to make a decision. Well, what general practice is that if it's halfway or more, you round up. Now, because it is exactly halfway, that means we're going to round up. So we're going to take it and round it up to 1 decimal place there. Or you could say we've rounded that up to the next number. If you round 4 up 1, what do you get? You get a 5 in that spot there. Okay. What if I have 0.43? Now you might use the 0.43 or 43 and you'll go, well, that's actually here. But what if we didn't have our number line to look at? What if it wasn't there? Then all we had was this here, and we're still trying to round it to 1 decimal place. Well, what's in the first decimal place? This 4 is in the first decimal place. What we're interested in is we're interested in what's right next door. What we're interested in is the number that is directly to the right of the thing we're rounding to. And I call it the one next door. The one next door is a 3. Now, remember we said if it's 5 or more we round up, and if it's less than that we round down. Well, this one is less than 5. So we're going to round down. We're going to bring it back to just 0.4. Well, what happens if I have 0.438? We've got an 8 in there. That's a big number. That's bigger than 5. Well, again, we're rounding to one decimal place. Now the 4 is in the first decimal place. What's next door? We don't actually care that the 8's there. It doesn't really matter. We're not interested. All we're interested in is this guy here, right next door. So I don't care what that is. It could be a 2 or 1, a 7, 6, an 8 as it is. Doesn't matter. We're interested just in this one, which is only a 3, which means we round down to 0.4. All right, what if I have one more? 0.5, oops, 457. That's the one I've got, 457. All right, again, we're rounding to one decimal place. There's the one decimal place. What's next door? That's what we're interested in. Don't care about you, going to ignore you. So we've got a 5, which is halfway or more, so we're going to have to round up. So that 4 gets rounded up to a 5, 0.5. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at rounding off to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to come back to drawing it on a number line again, and this time we're actually going to go from 0.51, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 0.52. So this is tens and hundreds, and this is to 2 decimal places, and there's 2 decimal places, and I've got 10 pieces in between. Now if they're 51 hundredths, 52 hundredths, and if I split up this hundredth into 10 smaller pieces, then each of these pieces is going to be thousandths, like that. All right, so what's halfway? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's going to be halfway? Well, again, we can't do 0.51 and a half, so we're going to take these up and we're going to say 5 tenths, 1 hundredth, no thousandths, 5, 2, and no thousandths. So what is halfway in between 510 and 520? It's 515 is halfway in between. All right, so let's round off to 2 decimal places, 0.517 and 0.5138. Okay. Looking here, we've got 515s here. 517 would be just over here a bit, into there. We can see that it's closer to this one here. So that's using the number line. How about we just use our system of who's next door? Let's have a look. 2 decimal places, 1, 2. So we're interested in stopping here. So we're going to have 0 point something something, 2 decimal places. Well, what's next door? It's a 7. What happens if there's a 7 next door? We're going to have to round up. So that 1 is going to get rounded up to a 2, and we've still got our 5 in there. Let's do the next one. 2 decimal places again. 5138. Well, 51, so we're going to have our 0 point, we're going to have something, something, 2 decimal places. What's next door? The 3's next door. But there's an 8, and that's pretty big. Well, who cares? We don't care. We're only interested in the guy next door, which is a 3. So we're just going to keep it rounded down to 0.51. Like that. I'm going to round down there. All right. Well, now, one of my friends, who's also a teacher, sent me a problem that her class were grappling with. And it was the number 1.947. And the question that they were trying to figure out was, what is this rounded to 1 decimal place? And some people were saying, well, it's 1.9, but then some people were saying, well, there's a 7 there, so then it's really actually not going to be that. It's actually going to be 2.0, because it's going to be... So let's work it out. We can think of it in 2 different ways. We can say, all right, is it between 1.9? Well, it is between 1.9 and 2.0. It's somewhere in there, because again, if we put it to 3 decimal places, we've got 3 decimal places, 3 decimal places. What's halfway? Halfway between this 900, but then this is actually 1,000, which has brought it up to another one. So it's going to be 1.950, right? 1.950, but how do you say it correctly? 1.950. Okay, so where's our 1.947? Well, 947 is a bit before 950, so it's sitting in there, which means it's closer to 1.9, and that's what the correct answer would be. Did we care? Oh, let's look at it the other way. 1.947, and we're rounding it off to 1 decimal place. So what are we interested in? 1 decimal place. Something, point, something. What's after the first decimal place? It's just a 4. But there's a 7 here, they said. We don't care about him. We can ignore him. There's our 4. It's less than 5. It means we're just going to keep that rounded down to 1.9. So 1.947 rounds to 1.9 for 1 decimal place. What if I set the point 1.9562 and I decide I want to round that off again to 1 decimal place? How would I do it? Well, 1 decimal place means you're going to have something, point, something. All right, what are we going to have? 1 decimal place is there. What's next door? Don't care about you guys. I'm going to ignore you. I'm just interested in the guy next door, which is a 5. Now, if that's a 5 or more, we round up. So this guy has to be rounded up. So this 9 that was normally in that decimal spot has to get rounded up to a 10. But you can't really put a 10 in there, can you? So what you're going to do is you're going to have to add that 1 up into the next place value. Now, at the moment, there's a 1 sitting in there. But if we add another 1 onto it, it actually becomes a 2. So 1.9562 rounded off to 1 decimal place is actually going to be 2.0. All right, just a couple more questions. We're going to have a look again at rounding to 2 decimal places. So we're rounding correct to 2 decimal places. So we're going to be interested in the guy next door in the thousands column. All right, we're going to have a look at 4 questions. We're going to do 3.959, then we're going to do 3.8951, and 7.993, and 7.998. Okay, let's look at the first one. 2 decimal places, 1, 2. So what's next door? That's what we're interested in. Now the guy next door is a 9, so we're going to have something, point, something, something for 2 decimal places. Well, we've got a 3 in here. What's going to happen here? This 9 is saying we have to round that guy up to a 6. And the other guy's not affected, so there we have it there. We can get rid of these bits here, and we have 3.96. Let's look at the next one. 2 decimal places. So we've got something in front of the decimal point, and then 2 things after the decimal point. Here we go. 2 decimal places, what's next door? There's a 5 next door. All right. What happens if it's a 5 next door? Don't care about him. 5 next door means we've got to take that up. So instead of having a 9 in here, we've actually got to take that up to the next one. Well, if you round up 9, you actually get 10. But you can't put 10. There's only place for 1 digit in that spot. So we're going to have to carry that 1 up into the next spot. What's in the next spot? It was an 8. Well, it can't be an 8 anymore. We've got to have to carry 1 onto it. So it's a 9. And then we've still got our 3 in there. He doesn't change. All right, we can get rid of those then. All right, so the next one, 2 decimal places again. 1, 2, what's next door? It's a 3. A 3, less than 5, nothing changes. We're just going to round it back down to 7.99. All right, what about the next one? 7.998. To 2 decimal places, what's the third one next door? Is an 8. So that's actually going to have to be rounded up. All right, so we've got something, point, something, something, 2 decimal places. At the moment we've got 7 here, and then 9 and 9. But this 9, we've just realised, has to get rounded up. So this 9 can't be a 9 anymore, it has to go up to a 10. So it means that we're going to have to add that 1 on to the next one here. Now what was supposed to be there? It's supposed to be a 9 again, but we're adding 1 on again, which makes that one a 10, which means we're going to have to add that, carry that 10 forward into the next place value. There was a 7 here, but now we have to add 1 to it. We're going to get an 8. Let me write that more neatly so we can see it. This number here, rounded to 2 decimal places, is 8.00. Now question, why do we need the 2 zeros there? Can we just sort of say, look, don't worry about that. 8.00 just means 8. In fact, don't even worry about the decimal point, it just means 8. Well, that decimal point and those place values holding the tenths and the hundredths was important because you were asked to write your answer to 2 decimal places. So you have to have the decimal point in and you have to show what's in those 2 decimal places. If there's zeros there, there's no tenths and no hundredths, you can just tell them there are no tenths and there are no hundredths. But that is written accurately to 2 decimal places. Good luck with the rest of your rounding.